Assalamu alaikum, Akim Akotiu, indigenous brothers and sisters of the earth. We humans were created to be eternal beings. Death was always at hand, but by keeping one law, one commandment only, all of us could have continued on a straight path into eternity, performing our given tasks and duties. But the rule of law was broken, and here we are now, dying in ignorance, searching for information, with so much information at hand, through information superhighway called the World Wide Web, www. Genesis 2:17. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. And we can sit around and debate whether the tree of knowledge of good and evil actually had fruit upon it, or if they were actually studying from that serpent that was in that tree. And it was the serpent that was giving them knowledge of good and evil. That could be debated, whether it was an actual fruit or Hashatan himself in that tree that was teaching them knowledge and telling them, hey, you're naked and that's not a good look for you. So therefore your eyes of understanding would be open. Otherwise, how would they know and understand that, okay, this is not cool, this is not right? And also on the opposite end, they could have been eating some type of fruit and it opened their eyes of understanding and wisdom, and they started using their natural eye instead of their third eye. All of those things can be debated, and therefore their third eye of extrasensory perception or just perceiving, they got away from using their understanding, wisdom and understanding that they get through the pineal gland, and they just started going by their natural senses, bypassing the pineal gland. All of that could be debated, but whatever. Matthew 6:22. The light of the body is the eye. Notice his eye as in singular. If therefore your eye be single, again singular, your whole body shall be full of light. Now, I would debate again that their natural eyes were never closed. They would see through their natural eyes, but they were filtering what they were seeing with their natural eye through their pineal gland, which was giving them understanding and fuller comprehension or overstanding and a more wiser understanding of what they were seeing. In other words, they were comprehending what they were seeing, and they was focusing more on their comprehension of what they were seeing and their perception of what they were seeing versus actually what they were naturally seeing. But since they learned from and this is according to my own perspective, they sat there and they learned from that darn serpent what was supposed to be good and what was evil, with all of his colleges and universities and grade school and kindergarten and stuff like that. They stopped focusing on their extrasensory, their sixth sense of extrasensory perception, and they started focusing on what they were naturally seeing. Okay? So I think that's the way I would best describe what happened to them as far as their eyes being opened and them seeing. They could always see, but they were filtering what they were seeing through the pineal gland. Genesis 3 and 21. Unto Adam and also to his wife did the Most High make coats of skins and clothed them. We read this often and think, I know I do, first thing come to mind is, okay, he put some clothes on him. But I kind of like changed my little thought about this through metaphysical perspective, and the actual outer coating of skin that surrounds us is what he actually clothed us in, clothed them in, and they passed down those animal skins unto us, which are disagreeable. Whereas before they didn't have those animal skins and they were covered with light. We just read where the single eye, when activated, actually produces light throughout the entire body, which actually reflects outside of the body. People used to say they can talk about, they could see auras around people, and the aura color would change due to according to moods. And I've known a couple of women who have these eyes, and according to their mood swings or whatever, their eyes would change from just different colors. Some people would have this lady I knew had hazel eyes, and her eyes when she was angry they'd get turned black, and when she was in a real good mood they would be multicolored. And it used to freak me out to look at that woman's eyes and be able to tell her moods just by the changes in the pupils of her eyes. That was weird for me. But animal flesh, and it's disagreeable with the spirit that is placed inside of us. And this talks, I'm sure we've all heard of this before in some of the other chapters in the New Testament and the Old Testament, that the flesh and the spirit are always warring against each other, because one is spirit and one is actually animal flesh. It's not human flesh. That we just read the Most High made them coats of skins, and clothed them. Hope that makes sense. Psalms 51 and 5 says, Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Iniquity, immoral or grossly unfair behavior, animal behavior. So, we spend 9 months in our mother's wombs, and we are shaped and formed with the salts of salvation. Talk a little bit about that, but not go into too much depth. Well, maybe, not a whole lot of depth, but enough to have a close understanding. To be shapen in iniquity. Well, again, that refers back to the animal flesh that we were clothed in when Adam and his wife, Eve, who he named Eve, after calling her womb man or without man. When they fell, of course they lost their light covering, and they saw that they were naked, and the Most High had to make these coats of skins, and naturally it had something to do with DNA. So while we're in our mother's womb, we're being shaped and formed, and that outer coating of animal flesh is formed over, whereas it should be light. It's as simple as that. I don't think I need to go into much detail about that. But the source of light refers to, there's 12 Mazzaroth signs, right? Each one of those Mazzaroth signs, in this case, will refer to a moon. 12 to 13 moons per year. Mostly though 12 moons per year, and they're staggered, right? For each month, they staggered. But in the 9 months that you're being formed, there are certain sulfates and bromides and other salts that are forming your body. This old guy I used to watch on TV a long time ago. His name was Carl Sagan. It's Edomite. He was an astronomer, and he always said, "We are made of the stuff of the stars." And what he's basically talking about is we are everything that we made up of are atoms, and everything that's made up in what is called the universe, the stars and the so-called planets. You wish that you never see any planets, or those are actual living beings up there, according to the Book of Enoch. But at any rate, in those 9 months that our mother's carrying us, we're being nourished if our mothers are eating the proper foods, because certain foods grow during certain times of the month. And then you have those scarcity times in which you're supposed to save up for. But anyway, during those 9 months, we get what we need from our mother while we're still in the womb. However, there's 3 months that we are not in the womb. Same thing, I think. Imagine. That's why I keep saying it. So for those 3 months, we're actually lacking in specific salts that our bodies need. And what I've learned through, cosmology and astrotheology, as well as in the metaphysical realm, is that we should be immediately being fed those foods that we've been lacking for the 3 months that we were not being formed in the womb. So there's a deficiency there. And while I'm on this thing, and I knew the Hunger Games were about to start, but I never imagined they would start with the babies not having their formula. Similac milk. We used to call them Similac babies because my mom breastfed me. And when she tried to wean me off of biting on her nipples and stuff and putting her through all kind of pain, I didn't like the milk that she was getting. If somehow it was spoiling or whatever. So they just did the natural water thing, and they started buying the cow's milk, and I got used to drinking cow's milk, and my outer flesh enjoyed the heck out of that until after a while I got tired of drinking cow's milk and just went straight water or the sugar water that my father used to love to make. So yeah, he enjoyed that doggone stuff. Kool-Aid, and he would make it extra sweet. So that's pretty much what this slide is talking about. The formation that, got to get back to time. I think I'll cover time in some of the next slides coming up, because sin is actually time, and I'll just show that once we get to it. Let's end this slide right here. Okay, so let's get on with it. On this slide, sin is the sine wave, the squiggly wave that's running through the center of this map, so-called map of the earth. There's a straight line that's gone through the center of each one of the circles, and there's the serpent of time. Time is sin. That is the sine wave. Sin is the sine wave. According to the Moors, and according to metaphysics, and according to astrotheology, and yeah, that's about it that I need to cover. It is also the path that so-called spacecraft was taking when they would do their orbits. Their orbits were never in a straight line. Remember, They were on this sign line, and I was saying that was sign language to those who understood the language. Each passage of the sign, that's why they want to get back out there so they can do some more talking about, okay, here we're actually at this time, and they know that right now, they already know they're behind time of doing things like they want to have done. They're running behind time, so we're going to see a rapid increase in death and destruction. And just remember, the Most High is in charge of all of it. He says, I kill and I make alive. I'll wound and I'll heal. So I'm trying not to worry too much about what's going on, because I know who's behind it all, right? And you know who's behind it all if you know the Bible. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, the pictograph diagram shown here is a representation of the procession of the equinox, or equal nights. And you notice that there are 12 signs of the Mazzaroth. You know that Jacob had 13 children. There are actually 13 signs in the modern day zodiac. The 13th is the Ophiuchus. So I would imagine Dinah would be represented by Virgo. Dinah, Diana, Deanna. Dinah, according to the Bible, right? So the 12 ages, each totals 2,000 years. Everyone agrees that it's 2,000 years, almost exact. And just a small note, each of these 2,000 year periods produces their own sages. And these are great wise men who they come to help us along after each age to progress in wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, or overstanding. And they are wise in their wisdom, and they are wise in their judgments. Each 2,000 year age, period, or sign has their own sages. Each age has its own sage. And there are 12 ages. Each of the age represents a tribe of Israel or Jacob. Important to note is the time in between the ages. And all this one says is like 25,920 years for the earth to go through this and make one complete cycle of the equinox. That's what this is representing. Some people round up to 26,000 years, others round down to 25,000 years. And when you do the calculations, you find out there's like 160 year period, anywhere from 83 to 160 year period. And in some cases, if they go by 26,000 year cycle, it'll be 166. Did I calculate? But these are times of chaos and destruction. Famine, wars, pestilence, plagues. These are the times we're in now, because we're coming out of the age of Pisces and preparing to enter into the age of Aquarius. Some say we're already in it. I say we're still in the time period between, where chaos and destruction is going on. I say we have not entered the age of Aquarius yet. We have entered into the time period of between 83 and 166 years, depending on which chart you go by. after which we will have a new world order. Whether it be one of evil or one of good, well, the Bible says it ushers in the time period of our Messiah's reign here on earth for 1,000 years. Now the 2,000 years, when you look at it, 1,000 of those years would be considered daylight, and the other 1,000 would be considered like nighttime. So you can look at it from that perspective. Because it's a day is as 1,000 years in the eyes of the Most High, and 1,000 years is about a day in His eyes, or the Most High's eyes. Yeah. So that's that train of thought. And again, the earth is undergoing a reset. And that's this time period. That's why these people know what they're talking about. They didn't come up with this. The earth has been resetting for however long it has been in existence. And this is a cycle of time that we're talking about. One specific period when the earth plane or planet, however you want to look at it, was called Mu, M-U. And all the people of the earth was called Moors, or Moors, M-U-U-R. Now you hear about M-O-O-R, Moor. And during that time period, I'm not sure which specific time period it was, but what happened is that Mu, the earth, split apart, and that's where we get our present day continents from. And we've been having continental drifts. They've been slowly drifting apart ever since this great earthquake in the days of Peleg. Another was the flood of Noah. That was a tumultuous period where they were moving from one age into another age. And recently, not long ago, coming to learn something new, there was a mud flood not long after the Messiah had died, and Paul and them did their other thing. So we went through all that stuff with the Dark Ages and stuff, but prior to that, there was a time period where certain parts, I'm not sure that all of the earth had it, but certain parts, especially over here, experienced mud floods. And you hear stories about children surviving and many adults did not survive. And there were children, they had to make little boxes and stuff to stand up and be able to operate the machinery that was left behind. It's all strange and weird. But there's archaeological evidence that proves there was some type of mud flood that took place in a region. Russia was hit, parts of the U.S. was hit. I'm not sure of all the other areas, but that's something you can look into on your own. And of course, we know what we read about is going to happen. The earth is going to be reshaped. There's going to be another earthquake, and of course the fires of destruction. But that is like the second half of this 2,000-year Aquarian period. Because remember, Christ is coming to reign for 1,000 years. That's the day portion. Then there's going to be another 1,000 years of the night portion. It's not. I don't think it's going to be a full 1,000 years but the earth is going. That's when the new heaven and the new earth is going to come into being. Okay, but the main thing I wanted to concentrate here on is that each of these 12 ages has a period of 2,000 years, and in between the age, like for instance Libra and Virgo, in between there is a period of destruction and chaos. You can look right here at between Aquarius and Pisces. We are in that age of destruction and chaos. And a global reset or a planetary reset is going on, and it's taking place right now. That's that's the main thing we needed to look at on this. So if you take that 25,920 years divided by 12 and subtract out whatever is remaining, I think that comes out to 160 years. Or if you round down to like equal 25,000 years, you divide that by 12 years, I think you should come up with 83 years. So it's between 83 years and 160 years. That's correct. Then this slide move to the next. Okay, alrighty then. This is my second attempt at trying to record this screen. The first had technical errors, and I did a fairly decent job with the first time around. I don't know if I can do it the same way the second time around. Of course, I'm going to forget some information or whatever, even though I have my notes and stuff here. It's better when I go off top of my head because I can move a little smoother and use less time. But here we go. I want to read, first of all, Matthew 7:13 through 14. 13, enter ye at the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. 14, because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth into life, and few there be that findeth it. Walk on the tightrope. It's difficult, it's hard, but the tightrope is better than what follows afterwards. We get to the other section of my notes. Pretty much what we're going to be doing is describing the Passover. Let me get a pen, a marker, and I'm doing this all over again. Let this be Adam and his wife, the first blood, first created human, God-man. Let that be the start. And here we're going to call the Passover a time when Adam and Eve fell. They fell from immortality into mortality. It was death. They had life eternal. And then they fell due to the serpent, which is Saturn. Let's see, can I make a head here for a serpent or dragon? And show the dragon's body, which is Satan, which is Saturn. Saturn is Lord of the Rings, and he swallowed us right up into time. If I go according to the Moors, we've been locked in this loop for over millions of years. I don't believe that we've been locked in the loop for over a million years. I got to go by what the biblical description says. If you look at these time zones, again, as Leo, that's 2,000 years we've lived. Our human God-man have been in existence for 6 God years. Or let me go. I described this once before. There's 1,000 years of daylight and 1,000 years of night when you're talking about God days and God nights, right? Okay, so that's why you have these 2,000 year periods. The first 1,000 is a day, and the second 1,000 is a night, or maybe vice versa. The first is night, and the second is day, because night came before day, right? So let me correct that. But here I'm going to have to stick with daylight first and nightlight second, because it just looks better for the. So each one of these split into 1,000 years. Each one of these ages, each age has its own sage, which brought us through, because Christ is going to reign for 1,000 years in this first Aquarian age. He's the sage that's going to return in the same body. Or according to, did I say the serpent tail? Yeah, I put the serpent tail here, and I got to watch my voice. Something's wrong with my recorder here, so if I speak too loudly, it's going to come out all muffled up and what have you. So I think I'm going to start recording from my cell phone. It picks up sound real good, so I can kind of whisper and still get things across. But this was the first Passover, from life to death. That's the main concentration, because so many of our people, they keep the Moedim, or the Moeds, the appointed times, without knowing what those appointed times actually mean, or why they're committing these to solemn memorials, and what it is they're supposed to be memorializing or remembering. So, this is your first Passover. After Adam and his wife, they were seduced by the serpent. Well, Adam was seduced by his wife, and do you blame him? I mean, yeah, all of us have simped at some time or another in our lives behind a woman. A beautiful woman, even the angels hadn't fallen. You see what I just see? Come on, we gotta keep it real. The ladies are that sexy, and they don't even know it. You don't even understand the power of the body that the Most High gave to you. And when you do understand it, you use it for evil instead of for the good of the God-man that was created for you. And every time you tell a man that he ain't this and he ain't that and he ain't worth this and he ain't worth, you telling the Most High who created man in his image. Every time you say it to me, you said it to the Most High, because I am the exact image that represents him, and you just don't care. I know, because you were seduced by the serpent. I understand, Eve. You were seduced, and you're still working for the serpent more than you're working for your man. Even Sarah called her man Lord, my Lord. Hello? But do as you do. You stay in the belly of the beast. Stay in the belly of the serpent. Second thing I wanted to bring out. So 6 days, we talked about 6 days. And in the Sabbath day, we all know that the Sabbath day is a day of rest. And we will get our rest. But right now, we're entering into another Passover period. And actually, we're in the Passover period, the period of chaos and destruction, where blood will continue to flow. It is flowing now, and it's going to continue to flow. Man was created upright. He stood upright. But after that, he fell flat on his face. That's the negative and the positive. Whereas man could have continued walking straight on into eternity and ate from the tree of life that's standing upright with his arms spread wide open, saying, "Come to me, learn of me. I am the light and the life and the branch, the Nazareth." Nazareth was not a place as his name. He was called the branch because he is the branch. He is the tree of life, and he is the roots. And he called us his branches. So man died. He fell flat on his face the moment he disobeyed. And he gave the keys, he gave power that was given to him over the animals and rulership over this earth. He handed that over to Satan. That's why the Most High had to come in flesh and take back the keys to this kingdom from Satan, because Adam had handed over his rulership over this earth to Satan when he disobeyed the Most High. The Most High had to come back and take it back from Satan and place it back into the hands of the man that he created. Satan also is Saturn, and Saturn is the Lord of the Rings, and we've been in this cycle, according to the Moorish science, for over millions of years. Again, I don't subscribe to their million-year philosophy or theology or their science, Moorish science. I still follow the biblical aspect of what's going on. So he passed over from life into death, and we've been subject unto Satan, the God of this world, ever since. But there has been those who have ascended masters, Enoch, Elijah, and they ascended back and walked with the Most High who created them, right? I kind of crossed out some other stuff because I didn't want people to concentrate on it while I talked about this Passover period. The shortest route between 2 points on a line is a straight line, not a curved line. And that's what we've been on, this curved line, all this time, trying to get to this point here, trying to make it to where this Most High had to bring heaven down to us. And the Mashiach, or the Messiah, said the kingdom of heaven is within. I brought this out once before. We're looking to this external being, this external power, when he sent the Comforter, the feminine aspect, to us, and put that power within. And we're supposed to lean and trust and display that power that is in us. Everybody has not accepted the power, but all flesh has received the Spirit. All of his creation, human creation, has the Spirit, unless they're not his human creation and or some substitute created in a lab somewhere. So let's see, let me get to my notes and we can deal a little bit from there and wrap this up quicker than what I did before. I think I had information in the previous recording that was not even required. So we talked about the ages, we talked about the days, that there are 6 days and we're about to enter the Sabbath day, the 7th day, the Shabbat. In between each sign, Leo, Cancer, scratch that out so bad I can't even see it for myself, and on and on. There's a great sage that comes. This time the Most High is supposed to come. We are in a Passover period right now. We are trying to pass over the Jordan River. This is the straight gate. Enter ye in at the straight gate. This is the wide gate that leads to destruction. Just to be clear on that, if I didn't make it clear before, wide is the gate that leads to destruction. I am the light, the life, and the branch. I think I heard myself say that once. And a lot of us, we take part in these appointed days and don't have a clue what these appointed days are. This is the first Passover, when we passed over from immortal life into mortal life. And it was appointed to every man to die once, and then the judgment was at Hebrews 9:27. 1 Corinthians, Paul tells us that all of us won't die. Some of us will just be changed in the twinkling of an eye. 1 Corinthians 15:52. Make sure I didn't have anything else here, and I'm hoping that this recorded correctly, because the last one just kind of froze up, and I don't know why it froze, so I don't know. I think I covered everything, except for the periods in between Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces. There's that 160-year period, or from anywhere from 83 years to 166, if you include 26,000 year precession of the equinox. So we're in that time period of chaos between 83 years. That's why I said no man knows the day or the time, because that period of time, 83 to 160 years of chaos and destruction, you don't know, and you can't really judge because it fluctuates. As in other terms, it's called processional slippage. And that processional slippage is hard to determine. Another thing about the Passover, we're supposed to be keeping Passover, what is that? The first of Abib, right? Or let's just say the longest day of the year. But we were held back in Egypt for 14 days, something to that effect. And that's why we keep it on for 14th, or start the Passover on the 14th day instead of the first day of the year, the longest day of the year, which would represent Adam's and Eve's fall in the beginning of time. So that's why we're off by 14 days in keeping the Passover now. That was that ordeal, because it was a 3-day travel into the wilderness, 1 day of sacrifice and meeting with the Most High, 3 days travel back, and that idiot, I shouldn't even say that, but king or pharaoh, whoever he was, said, no, I ain't gonna let him go. He can't go. And so we're held back until he finally decided, okay, I gotta get these people up out of here, because, man, I done lost he ended up losing the whole army and stuff. Anything else I had on that? No. That was about it. So I hope this has recorded and it makes sense to you. That is why you keep the Passover. In my first video, I kept saying celebration is not a celebration. And when I see people celebrating now, I actually get super angry and be wanting, I wish I had a bomb in there and just go and blow their little celebrations up. Because Adam's and Eve's fall was nothing to be celebrated. We're living in death, actually, right now, under the rulership of Satan, the god of this world. Even though the Mashiach went down and took back the keys, or took back rulership from Saturn, the Lord of Rings, and now he is wearing the rings, and he put it back into the hands of Peter. It wasn't Peter, I'm going to build my church upon this rock, where you all know what I'm talking about. But the keys of they're in his hands, and he is the man who's going to rule. All right. I think I've gone far enough into this. I'll just end this section right here.